Did you notice that Super Mario Wonder doesn't have a time limit on its levels? Isn't that a bit strange? For something that has been there for over 40 years to just get left out? And if it's not an essential feature, why did it take so long to cut? I wanna know. So to figure this out, I went and looked at why this little timer appeared in the first place, and how it evolved over time. Also, I can properly dissect its disappearance in Wonder. Do stay tuned, because through this search I did not only find out why it was cut, I think I also found out that its exclusion hints at how Wonder is trying to fundamentally change what a Mario game is. Hi, I'm Stijn, project lead at Frog Vibes, known for Here Comes Niko, and currently working on $5 for the bus. Let's go. To understand how the lack of a level timer relates to a larger shift in Nintendo's design philosophy, I first had to understand its initial purpose. And I'd best start at the beginning by taking a look at our favorite plumber's first encounter with this lethal clock. But be warned. In doing this, I might have revealed the predatory business practices behind the beloved classic. Because, as it turns out, I had to go all the way back to the beginning, to the original Donkey Kong. Can you spot the timer? To be honest, when I started looking into this, I was convinced this game didn't have a timer, but it's right there. So why is it there? My gut says it has a bit to do with how arcades work, seeing as how arcades are the natural habitat of this monkey. Arcades. They're businesses, right? They buy game cabinets from various companies, then invite people to come over and throw quarters inside. The more quarters it eats per unit of time, the better. So it would stand to reason that the time limit plays a part in that. Maybe it's there to make sure that cautious players who are taking too long are cut off, eventually requiring another quarter to keep playing. Or maybe it's there to reward players for getting better at the game. See, it also grants points for clearing a level with time to spare. That's probably why they called it bonus. And there really is only one way to get better at an arcade game, and that is to keep playing. And to keep playing is to keep feeding it those scrumptious pennies. Is using game design to entice people to give their money a bad thing? Not really. All commercial games have that as their end goal, and the way it's done here is child's play compared to some of the tactics in the game industry today. I'd be quite happy to spend some pennies to go on a little adventure, though these days most arcades only have machines that focus on singular challenges. Hold that thought, because it will become relevant later. But if it's all about quarters and pennies, why do we still see it in home console games? For instance, I went and took a look at Super Mario Bros. For the NES. Here we can see the timer pop up again, right there. Now aptly named Time. I went and assumed that it's still fun to get bonus points. High scores were big around this time too. It's still fun to get better at the game and compare your score to others. Something we don't do as much these days. Keep that in mind. However, what is starting to become more apparent here on the good old NES is the way in which the timer encourages a particular playstyle. The game is most fun when you're on the move. This might seem quite obvious to us experienced gamers, but it's not evident to everyone. I've seen inexperienced players awkwardly muck about in this game. Then, suddenly, the game announces that they're running out of time, prompting them to start making a run for it. It is often in this moment where I'll notice that they're finally starting to have fun. I think this shows how ingenious this simple feature really is. I might even dare to say that without it, a good number of people might not have even gotten the point of the game. Maybe I'm exaggerating, but I just think these timers are very cool and interesting. Before I went and dissected Super Mario Wonder, I had my eye on another game, or rather a series of games. See, in 2006 Nintendo released a revival of 2D Mario. After a 15-year gap, they still decided to keep the level timer. Look, it has a little clock now. This was interesting to examine, because they did have a great opportunity to cut it then and there. So I tried to figure out what new Super Mario Bros. Does with it. While the reasons we discussed could still apply here, I wanted to try and find more. Note, I am looking at Super Mario Bros. U, and this is because I have it installed on my Switch. These games are luckily quite similar. So one of the most fun things to do in these games is collecting star coins, though it can be a bit tricky. I've had times where I'm convinced that I'm in the right spot, so I keep trying and trying. At some point this will get tedious, as my determination overtakes my desire to have fun. Which kinda sounds like my day to day if I'm honest. Luckily, new Super Mario Bros. Has a solution, in the form of the timer that kills you if you take too long. What this does is it interrupts these moments. You'll get booted out of the level, giving you a clear choice. Try again. Maybe this time, through replaying part of the level, you'll stumble on the actual location of the coin. The one you missed because you were obsessing over that one pipe you can't even enter. Or, alternatively, you can just say, let's try that one again later. Isn't that cool? You might think I don't need a timer to tell me what to do, I can just decide to exit the level myself. But to me, a well-designed game is made with a certain experience in mind. I don't like having to tell myself to stop doing this thing because it's starting to get tedious. Because for me to notice something is tedious means I'm already experiencing tedium. And that's something I think a game should help me avoid. So yeah, I like the timer. It's there to end Mario before I want to end him myself. Are level timers actually great and not annoying at all? Maybe, or maybe not. It's at least clear that there is some sort of purpose to them. And with that in mind, let's look at Super Mario Wonder. But wait, there's a quick side note I stumbled upon that's kinda interesting. In some games, particularly 3D Land and 3D World, there's a clock item. It technically first appeared in Super Mario Bros. Special, but I don't even know what that is, so let's just ignore that for now. This clock item adds units of time back to the timer. Why is that interesting? From what I can tell, it seems to be a way to keep the urgency of a level timer during longer levels. Now, the alarm can go off in the first half of the level without you being doomed, because unbeknownst to you there's a carefully placed clock. That's also why they're usually easy to grab. In a way, they are distributing time over space. Neat, right? Where was I? I was trying to figure out why Mario Wonder decided to go commando without a level timer. Let's see. So it turns out that while having no level timer, Mario Wonder does have other timers. For instance, the little timers in speed-based levels. These actually count up instead of down, mimicking something more akin to a speedrun timer. I think this is already saying something about the dev's vision for this game. In general, I found that this game has a much bigger focus on challenges over traditional level progression. We see it in these speedrun levels, but also the Wonder Flowers and even its badges. And most levels are incredibly short compared to the ones in earlier titles. Now there's a subtle difference between challenging players, which is something almost all games do, and a game being based around the idea of challenges. And the latter does feel like it applies to Wonder. With this shifted focus, the developers most likely wanted to remove all unnecessary clutter. The game isn't as much about moving through a level, so maybe the timer doesn't need to push players to do so. Interestingly, the player's score was also deemed unnecessary, which is why we now see good in places where we'd previously seen some points. This isn't surprising considering the lack of interest in scores nowadays, but it is interesting. Incidentally, Mario Wonder has a new way of making you replay levels to get collectibles, which is by making some of them unobtainable if you mess something up with no way to keep trying. It's usually due to the fact that enemies don't respawn now. I do not like this. Why make enemies fun to take out, but then throw in a few that turn out to have a specific purpose? Am I supposed to, every single time, consider each creature's mortality? What a life is really worth? Whether I should kill or have mercy? Maybe I'm missing something. Either way, I think it's safe to say that Super Mario Wonder is trying to fundamentally reshape what a 2D Mario game is like. Without the traditional form of level progression and without a score counter, a timer wouldn't be much of a contribution. It might even be a distraction, which is enough reason to let it go. And while that makes a lot of sense, I'm not sure what to think of this new direction for the series. While it's a good thing to shake things up, I'll be missing the way things were. Challenges can be great fun, but it also feels like they're playing into internet culture a bit. Kind of like those arcades. That, combined with the downgrading of couch co-op in favor of online play, really highlights that Nintendo is trying to modernize Mario a bit much. Luckily, there's a lot of stuff I do like about Wonder and the way it changes things up. What about you? Are there any particular changes that you think were great or not so great? Did you notice the absence of a timer? Do you think this new vision is the way to go for the franchise? Please tell me in the comments or in our Discord, where I tend to hang out. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for tuning in. Bye bye. Real quick, I just finished recording the video, but I came up with maybe like a better intro. So it goes, Mario Wonder doesn't have a timer. I wonder where it went. Okay, bye.